don't know who needs to hear this, but when it comes to the child of a narcissist, y'all got some work to do as well. When it comes to the child of a narcissist, the child actually grows up in an environment that they feel uncomfortable. They can't trust the individual. Their environment doesn't feel necessarily safe for them to be themselves. And so the child either grows up to be a person with highly narcissistic traits or a child that is a people pleaser. And so the people pleasing needs to be healed and touched on as well, because it is really a reaction a narcissistic parent gets from a child, because the child wants to please the narcissistic parent. And the sad part is the child never gets to please that narcissistic parent, but the child tries so much their whole life to please this parent. Thus, this is where people pleasing comes from. Now, there are people pleasing with the real world, and a lot of people are taking advantage of them. When it comes to someone who distributes narcissistic traits, that person is basically using it as a defense. Nobody's ever going to hurt me again. Nobody's ever going to do this to me again. Nobody's ever going to let me down again. After a while, they become narcissistic. So here are a few traits that I want you guys to think about. And if you find yourself falling into any one of these categories, then you may just have had a narcissistic environment. The child of a narcissist may experience self-blame, which is basically taking responsibility for something that you didn't do because you were blamed for it, which is worse than somebody actually blaming you, because most times you do self-blame, it's not even your fault. You have a distorted reality. The narcissistic environment has made you think in such a way that it allowed you to believe that things are true, when in the real reality, it's not true at all. Things like, you will never be good at anything, you're just like your no good daddy, you're just like your no good mama. That's distorting your reality, when in fact you are God's child. You are the head, not the tail. You are above and not beneath. You have very, very weak boundaries, because every time you try to set a boundary, whether it be in that narcissistic environment or with that narcissistic parent, your boundary was crossed over, disrespected, and looked at as non-important because you were the child trying to set a boundary with a narcissistic parent. Self-doubt and low self-esteem also comes from a narcissistic environment. You have an insecure attachment style. You can be an avoidant. You can be an anxious attachment. You can even be a dismissing detachment. This impacts how the child builds relationships in the future, as well as how they pursue and who they pursue when it comes to relationships. In a narcissistic household, the child learns very early to put the needs of others before themselves. And they grow up like this as adults. When they were younger, this got them through dealing with that narcissistic environment. Now they take that from their childhood to adulthood, and it doesn't quite work. And now adults are wondering why their relationships are not working, why their relationships are failing. It's because they've been pre-programmed in the wrong way from the very beginning. So it doesn't cross over into the world because it was unhealthy from the very beginning.